The attic smelled of dust and forgotten things, a musty perfume of time that clung to every surface. I sat on an old wooden chair, its legs creaking under my weight, surrounded by cardboard boxes and memories that hadn't seen daylight in decades. The single bulb overhead flickered, casting jagged shadows across the slanted walls. Outside, the world was festive. Christmas lights twinkled on the street below, and I could hear the faint hum of carols drifting up from my daughter's living room. But up here, in this cramped space above her pristine suburban home, I was an afterthought, tucked away like an old coat no one wanted to wear. My name is Walter Grayson, and at 82, I'd seen enough Christmases to know this one was different. Not because of the holiday itself, but because of how I ended up here, banished to the attic by my only child, Emily. She hadn't said it in so many words, but the message was clear. I was a burden, a wrinkle in her carefully curated life. Her husband, Greg, had been even less subtle, muttering about space and convenience when they suggested I take the attic for the holidays. The guest room, it seemed, was reserved for Greg's parents, who arrived with their polished suitcases and judgmental glances. I didn't argue. I never did. Not when Emily sold my house after my wife, Margaret, passed 3 years ago. Not when she moved me into her home, promising it was temporary. And not now, as I climbed the rickety ladder to this attic, my knees protesting with every step. But as I sat here, surrounded by the detritus of my life, I couldn't help but smile. They didn't know one of them did it. This attic held more than cobwebs and old furniture. It held a secret worth $20 million. It started 50 years ago, in a different world. I was a young man then, barely 30, working as a restorer for an art dealer in New York. My hands were steady, my eyes sharp, and my heart full of ambition. One day, a client brought in a painting, a small, unassuming canvas with faded colors and a cracked frame. It was a landscape, nothing special to the untrained eye, but something about it caught my attention. The signature in the corner was faint, almost illegible, but I recognized it, a name that could make collectors weep. I won't bore you with the details of how I came to own it, but let's just say the client underestimated its value, and I had a knack for spotting diamonds in the rough. I kept it hidden, not out of greed, but caution. The art world was a shark tank, and I wasn't ready to swim with the predators. So, I stored it away, first in a safe deposit box, then in a crate when I moved to the suburbs with Margaret. Life got in the way: marriage, Emily's birth, bills, and the slow grind of time. The painting became a memory, tucked away with other dreams I'd set aside. When Margaret died, I brought it here, to Emily's attic, without a word. It was safer that way. Now, as I sat in the attic, the irony wasn't lost on me. Emily thought she was hiding me up here, out of sight, out of mind. She didn't know I was sitting atop a fortune, a masterpiece that could change everything. But the truth was, I didn't care about the money. Not really. What hurt was the distance between us, the way her eyes avoided mine, the way her voice carried an edge of impatience whenever we spoke. I'd raised her to be kind, to value family, but somewhere along the way, she'd forgotten. The attic door creaked open, and Emily's head appeared. "Dad, you okay up here?" Her voice was clipped, more duty than concern. "Fine," I said, keeping my tone light. "Just getting cozy." She hesitated, then nodded. "Dinner's in an hour. Greg's parents are here. So, you know, it's a bit crowded downstairs." "I'll manage," I replied, and she disappeared without another word. The ladder rattled as she descended, leaving me alone again. I leaned back, my eyes drifting to the crate in the corner. It was unmarked, unremarkable, just another piece of clutter to anyone else. But inside was the painting, wrapped in layers of cloth, untouched by time. I could sell it, I thought. Walk away with millions. Buy a mansion, a yacht, a new life. But what good was a fortune if my daughter couldn't look me in the eye? The Christmas lights outside flickered, and I heard laughter from downstairs. Greg's parents, no doubt, charming the room with their stories of golf and vacations. I closed my eyes, letting the memories flood in. Margaret's laugh, Emily's tiny hand in mine, the way we used to decorate the tree together. Those were my real treasures. Not the painting. But maybe, just maybe, that painting could remind Emily of what mattered. I stood, my joints protesting, and shuffled toward the crate. My fingers brushed the rough wood, and for the first time in years, I felt a spark of purpose. This Christmas, I wouldn't just sit in the attic. I'd show Emily who I was, not a burden, but a man with a story, a life, a legacy, and maybe, just maybe, I'd teach her to see me again. The attic was colder now, the single bulb casting a weak glow that barely reached the corners. I knelt beside the crate, my hands trembling not from age, but anticipation. The wood was rough under my fingers, splinters catching at my skin as I pried the lid open. Inside, wrapped in faded muslin, was the painting. I hadn't looked at it in years, but as I peeled back the cloth, the colors hit me like a memory: vibrant greens, soft blues, a landscape that seemed to breathe with life. The signature in the corner was unmistakable, a flourish that could make auction houses buzz with excitement. I sat back on my heels, staring at it. 50 years ago, I'd been a different man, hungry, ambitious, ready to take on the world. This painting was my gamble, my secret ace, but I'd buried it under the weight of responsibility. Margaret had known about it. Of course. She'd teased me, calling it my retirement plan, but we both agreed to keep it hidden. For Emily, she'd said, her eyes soft, for her future. But Margaret was gone now. And Emily was downstairs, laughing with her in-laws, while I was up here, forgotten. The sound of footsteps on the ladder snapped me out of my thoughts. I quickly wrapped the painting and slid it back into the crate, shoving it into the shadows just as Greg's head appeared. His hair was thinning, his face flushed from wine. "Walter, you coming down for dinner?" he asked, his tone more command than question. "In a bit," I said, forcing a smile. "Just sorting through some things." He glanced around, his nose wrinkling at the dust. "Don't know why you bother. It's all junk up here." He didn't wait for a response, just disappeared down the ladder, leaving the attic door open. Junk. The word stung, not because of the painting, but because it felt like he was talking about me. I was the junk, the old man taking up space in their perfect life. But as I looked at the crate, I felt a flicker of defiance. I wasn't done yet. Not by a long shot. Dinner was a tense affair. The dining room was decked out in Christmas finery candles, a centerpiece of holly, a table groaning under the weight of a feast. Emily sat at one end, radiant in a red dress, her laughter bright but brittle. Greg's parents, Evelyn and Richard, dominated the conversation, their voices loud with stories of their latest cruise. I sat at the far end, my plate piled with food I barely touched. Every now and then, Emily's eyes flicked toward me, but they never lingered. "Walter," Evelyn said, her smile tight, "you must love having so much time to yourself now. Retirement must be freeing." I nodded, swallowing a bitter retort. "Plenty of time to think," I said, my voice steady. "You'd be surprised what you find when you dig through the past." Emily's fork paused midair, but she didn't look at me. Greg, oblivious, launched into a story about his golf swing, and the moment passed. I excused myself early, claiming fatigue, and climbed back to the attic. The ladder seemed steeper now, each step a reminder of my place in this house. Back in the attic, I didn't go to the crate. Instead, I pulled out an old photo album from a nearby box. The pages were yellowed, the photos curling at the edges. There was Margaret, smiling in her wedding dress, her eyes full of dreams. There was Emily, 5 years old, her face smeared with chocolate frosting at her birthday party. I traced her smile with my finger, my chest aching. Where had that girl gone? When had she decided I was someone to hide away? I didn't sleep much that night. The attic was too cold, the memories too loud. By morning, the house was quiet. The Christmas chaos paused. I heard Emily in the kitchen, the clink of dishes, the hum of the coffee maker. I made my way downstairs, moving slowly, my plan taking shape. "Morning, Dad," Emily said, glancing up from her coffee. She looked tired, her eyes shadowed. "Sleep okay?" "Well enough," I said, sitting across from her. I was thinking, maybe we could go through some of the stuff in the attic together. There's a lot up there you might want to see. She frowned, stirring her coffee. "The attic. It's just old junk, isn't it?" "Not all of it," I said, my voice soft but firm. "Some things are worth more than you think." She gave me a strange look, like she was trying to read me. But then Greg walked in, and the moment broke. "Morning, Walter," he said, barely glancing at me. "Big day today? Family photos. Then the Christmas party." I nodded, my mind elsewhere. Family photos. A perfect facade for Emily's perfect life. But I wasn't here to play a role in her charade. I was here to remind her who we were, who I was. And the painting was my way in. That afternoon, while the house buzzed with preparations, I slipped back to the attic. I pulled the painting out again, studying it under the weak light. It was more than a masterpiece, it was a bridge. A way to reach Emily. I didn't want the money. Not really. I wanted her to see me, to remember the father who'd carried her on his shoulders, who'd taught her to ride a bike, who'd loved her through every mistake. Maybe this painting could do what words couldn't. I wrapped it carefully and tucked it back into the crate. Tonight, at the Christmas party, I'd find a way to bring it up. Not to boast, not to shame her, but to show her that the past wasn't junk and neither was I. The Christmas party was in full swing by evening. The house transformed into a glittering stage. Fairy lights draped the staircase. A massive tree dominated the living room, and the air was thick with the scent of pine and mulled wine. Guests milled about, their laughter sharp and bright, their glasses clinking in toasts to a season that felt more performative than heartfelt. I stood on the fringes, a glass of untouched cider in my hand, watching Emily play the perfect hostess. She moved through the crowd with ease, her smile practiced, her red dress catching the light. But I knew her well enough to see the strain in her eyes, the way her shoulders tensed when Greg's arm looped around her waist. I'd brought the painting downstairs, hidden in a black garbage bag to avoid questions. It leaned against the wall in the hallway, out of sight but close enough to retrieve when the moment felt right. I wasn't sure what that moment would look like, but I trusted I'd know it when it came. For now, I watched, waiting, my heart heavy with the weight of what I needed to say. Greg's parents were the center of attention. As usual, Evelyn held court by the fireplace, her voice carrying over the chatter as she recounted their latest trip to Paris. Richard stood beside her, nodding along, his smile smug. I caught snippets of their conversation art galleries. Fine dining. The kind of life that screamed privilege. I wondered what they'd say if they knew about the painting. If they knew the old man they barely acknowledged was sitting on a fortune. Emily approached me, her smile faltering. "Dad, You're awfully quiet tonight. Everything okay? Just taking it all in, I said, gesturing vaguely at the room. Big crowd. She nodded, her eyes darting away. Yeah, it's a lot. Greg wanted it to be perfect. She paused, then added, You don't have to stay down here if it's too much. The attic's quieter. Her words stung, though I knew she didn't mean them to. Or maybe she did. I'm fine here, I said, my voice steady. Actually, I was hoping we could talk. About the attic. She frowned, confused. What about it? Before I could answer, Greg called her over, his voice cutting through the noise. The caterer needs you. She gave me an apologetic look and hurried away, leaving me alone again. I sipped my cider, my mind racing. The painting wasn't just a piece of art, it was a story. My story. And Emily needed to hear it. Not because of the money, but because it was a piece of me. A piece of her mother. A piece of the life we'd built together. I set my glass down and slipped into the hallway, checking the bag to make sure the painting was secure. My hands shook as I touched it. Not from fear, but from the weight of what it represented. The party dragged on, the noise growing louder, the air hotter. I stayed on the edges, my eyes on Emily. She was everywhere at once, refilling glasses, laughing at jokes, playing the role of the perfect daughter-in-law. But I saw the cracks, the way her smile slipped when she thought no one was watching, the way her hands fidgeted with her necklace. She was unhappy, and it broke my heart to see it. Finally, I saw my chance. The crowd had thinned, and Emily was alone by the tree, adjusting an ornament. I grabbed the bag and approached her, my heart pounding. Emily, I said, my voice low but firm. Can we talk? Somewhere private. She looked surprised but nodded. Sure. Dad. Let's go to the kitchen. We slipped through the crowd, the bag heavy in my hands. The kitchen was quieter, the hum of the party muffled by the walls. Emily leaned against the counter, her arms crossed. What's this about? You've been acting strange all night. I set the bag down carefully, my hand steady now. There's something in the attic I want you to see. Something important. She sighed, her patience thinning. Dad, can't this wait? I've got a house full of people. No, I said, sharper than I meant to. It can't. This is about us. About your mother. About our family. Her eyes widened, and for the first time all night, she really looked at me. Not as a burden, not as an old man to be tucked away, but as her father. I reached into the bag and pulled out the painting, unwrapping it slowly. The canvas caught the light, its colors vivid even in the dim kitchen. Emily's breath caught, her hand reaching out instinctively. What? What is this? She whispered. It's a story, I said, my voice thick with emotion. My story. Your mother's story. And I think it's time you heard it. Emily stared at the painting, her fingers hovering over the canvas as if afraid to touch it. The kitchen was silent, the distant hum of the party a world away. I could see the questions in her eyes, the confusion, but also a flicker of curiosity. For the first time in years, I felt like she was seeing Minute, the old man in her attic. But the man I'd been, the man I still was. Dad, she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Where did you get this? I took a deep breath, steadying myself. A long time ago, when I was younger than you are now, I worked for an art dealer in New York. This painting came through the shop, overlooked by everyone but me. I saw something in it, something special. So I bought it, kept it safe. Your mother knew, but we decided to hold on to it. For you. For the future. Her eyes flicked between me and the painting, her brow furrowed. But why keep it hidden? Why not sell it? It looks valuable. It is, I said softly. More than you can imagine. But it wasn't about the money, Emily. It was about timing. About making sure it went to the right hands. At the right moment. She shook her head, stepping back. I don't understand. You've had this all these years. And you never told me. Why show me now? I hesitated, the words catching in my throat. Because you've forgotten me. I wanted to say. Because you sent me to the attic like I was nothing. But instead, I said, because I want you to know who I am. Not just your father, but the man who loved your mother, who built a life for us. This painting is part of that life. And I want it to be part of yours. Her eyes softened, but there was still a wall between us. Dad, this is a lot. I don't know what to say. You don't have to say anything, I said. Just listen. Let me tell you the story. And so I did. I told her about my days in New York. The late nights restoring paintings. The thrill of discovery when I found this one. I told her about her mother. How Margaret's laughter filled our tiny apartment. How she believed in me even when I doubted myself. I told her about the years we kept the painting hidden. Not out of greed, but because we wanted to protect it for her. For the family we hoped she'd build. As I spoke, Emily's defenses began to crack. Her arms uncrossed. Her shoulders relaxed. She leaned closer. Her eyes locked on mine. And for the first time in years, I felt like she was really listening. When I finished, the kitchen was quiet. The weight of my words hanging between us. Dad, she said finally, her voice trembling. I had no idea. All this time, I thought. You thought I was just an old man with nothing to offer. I finished for her. My tone gentle but honest. I know, Emily. And I don't blame you. Life moves fast. And I got left behind. But I'm still here. And so is this. She looked at the painting again, her fingers brushing the frame. What do we do with it? She asked. Sell it. Keep it. That's up to you, I said. But whatever you choose, I want you to remember what it stands for. Not the money, but the love behind it. Your mother's love. My love. Her eyes filled with tears, and she turned away, wiping them quickly. I've been awful to you, she whispered. The attic. I didn't mean for it to feel like I was hiding you. I reached out, touching her arm. I know, sweetheart. But we've got time to fix it. Starting now. She nodded, a small, shaky smile breaking through. Okay. Let's figure this out together. For the rest of the night, the painting stayed in the kitchen, hidden from the guests. Emily didn't return to the party right away. We sat together, talking not about the painting, but about the past. About her mother. About the Christmases we'd spent together. About the little girl who used to climb into my lap and beg for stories. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. As the party wound down, Greg poked his head into the kitchen, his expression impatient. Em, people are asking for you. You coming? In a minute, she said, her voice firm. She glanced at me, and I saw something new in her eyes resolve. Dad's staying down here tonight. No more attic. Greg frowned, but didn't argue. He left, and Emily turned to me. I mean it, she said. No more attic. You're part of this family. Dad, I'm sorry I forgot that. I smiled, my heart lighter than it had been in years. Thank you, Emily. The painting stayed in the kitchen, a quiet promise of what was to come. It wasn't about the $20 million. Not really. It was about finding our way back to each other, one memory at a time. The days after the Christmas party felt different, like the air in the house had shifted. Emily was quieter, more thoughtful. Her smile's less forced. She didn't send me back to the attic. And the guest room once reserved for Greg's parents was now mine. The bed made up with fresh sheets and a quilt Margaret had sewn years ago. It was a small gesture, but it meant the world. The painting, still wrapped in its muslin, sat in a corner of the guest room, a silent reminder of our conversation. But the painting wasn't the end of the story, it was just the beginning. Emily wanted to know more. Not just about the painting, but about me. We spent mornings together, sipping coffee, flipping through old photo albums I brought down from the attic. She laughed at pictures of herself in pigtails, asked questions about her mother, about the life we'd lived before she was born. For the first time in years, I felt like I was part of her world again. One afternoon, as snow dusted the windows, Emily sat across from me at the kitchen table, her laptop open. I looked up the artist. She said, her voice tinged with awe. "This painting, Dad, it's worth millions. Maybe more." I nodded, unsurprised. I had a feeling it was special. But it's not about the money, Emily. It never was. She leaned back, her eyes searching mine. Then what is it about? Why keep it all these years? I took a sip of coffee, choosing my words carefully. It's about legacy. About leaving something behind that matters. Your mother and I. We wanted you to have a piece of us, something that showed you who we were, what we believed in. The painting was our way of saying we trusted you to carry it forward. Her eyes softened, and she reached across the table, squeezing my hand. I wish I'd known sooner. I wish I hadn't pushed you away. I squeezed back, my throat tight. We're here now. That's what counts. The conversation turned to what to do with the painting. Emily was practical, suggesting we get it appraised. Maybe contact an auction house. I agreed, but with a condition: whatever happened, we'd decide together. Not as a business deal, but as a family. That evening, Greg joined us for dinner, his usual bluster subdued. I'd caught him eyeing the painting earlier, his curiosity obvious, but he hadn't asked about it. Now, as we sat around the table, Emily brought it up. "Greg," she said, her voice steady, "Dad's got something to show you." I unwrapped the painting, setting it on the table. Greg's eyes widened, his fork pausing midair. "What the hell is that?" he asked, his tone a mix of skepticism and intrigue. "It's a painting," I said simply. "One I've had for a long time. It's worth a lot. But it's more than that. It's a piece of our family." Greg leaned closer, studying the canvas. "You're saying this is, what? Some kind of masterpiece?" "Something like that," Emily said, her voice proud. "Dad's been keeping it safe for years. For me." Greg sat back, his expression unreadable. "And what's the plan? Sell it? Keep it?" "We're figuring that out," I said. "Together." For once, Greg didn't argue. He nodded, his eyes flicking between me and Emily. "Fair enough," he said, and I saw a flicker of respect in his gaze, something I hadn't seen before. Over the next few days, Emily and I researched the painting's history, contacting experts and appraisers. The numbers they threw around were staggering: $15 million, $20 million, maybe more. But with every call, I saw Emily's focus shift. She wasn't just thinking about the money anymore. She was thinking about what it meant, what it could do. One evening, she came to me with an idea. "Dad," she said, her eyes bright, "what if we didn't sell it? What if we donated it to a museum? Let people see it, learn from it, make it part of something bigger." I smiled, my heart swelling. "Your mother would have loved that." She grinned, a spark of the girl I remembered. "Then let's do it. For her. For us." We spent the rest of the week planning, talking, rebuilding what we'd lost. The painting wasn't just a fortunite, it was a bridge. A way to reconnect, to remember. And as we worked together, I felt Margaret's presence, her love guiding us, reminding us that family was the real treasure. The snow fell steadily outside, blanketing the world in quiet. Inside, the house felt warmer, not just from the fire crackling in the living room, but from the shift between Emily and me. The painting rested on an easel in the guest room. No longer hidden, no longer a secret. We decided to donate it to a museum, a choice that felt right, like honoring Margaret's memory and our shared past. But the real gift wasn't the painting, it was the time we'd spent together. The conversations, the laughter, the slow rebuilding of our bond. The appraisal process was underway, experts coming and going, their voices hushed with reverence as they examined the canvas. They confirmed what I'd always suspected. It was a masterpiece, one of the artist's finest works, valued at $20 million, possibly more. But as Emily and I sat together, planning the donation, the money felt secondary. We talked about creating a fund in Margaret's name, something to support young artists, to give them the chances I'd had all those years ago. Emily's eyes lit up at the idea, her passion reminding me of her mother. Greg, to his credit, stepped back, letting us take the lead. He wasn't thrilled about giving up a fortune, but he saw how much it meant to Emily. And for once, he didn't push. I caught him watching me sometimes, his expression softer, like he was seeing me for the first time. "You're full of surprises, Walter," he said one evening, a rare smile tugging at his lips. I just nodded, grateful for the truce. The day we finalized the donation, Emily and I drove to the museum together. The curator, a kind woman with sharp eyes, walked us through the gallery where the painting would hang. "It'll be the centerpiece of our new exhibit," she said, her voice warm. "A legacy for generations." Emily squeezed my hand, her eyes shining. "Mom would be so proud," she whispered. "She'd be proud of you," I said, my voice thick. "You're the one making this happen." She shook her head, tears spilling over. "No, Dad. You are. You kept this safe all these years. You never gave up on Ido on me." We stood there, the painting glowing under the museum's soft lights, and I felt a weight lift. The attic, the loneliness, the years of distanced, all faded. What remained was love, the kind that endures through mistakes and time. Back home, the house felt different. The Christmas decorations were still up, but they no longer felt like a facade. Emily insisted I stay in the guest room permanently, and she started talking about remodeling the attic into a studio, a place for me to paint, to create. "You've still got it, Dad," she said, grinning. "I want to see what else you've got up your sleeve." I laughed, the sound rusty but real. "Maybe I'll surprise you." As the new year approached, we sat together by the fire, planning the future. The painting was gone, but its legacy lived on in the fund we'd created, in the museum's walls, in the bond we'd rebuilt. I thought of Margaret, of her smile, her faith in us. She'd always believed in second chances. And now, so did I. Emily leaned against me, her head on my shoulder, the way she used to when she was little. "I'm sorry, Dad," she said softly, "for everything." "I know," I said, kissing her forehead. "But we're here now. That's enough." And it was. The attic was empty. The fortune was gone. But I'd gained something far greater, my daughter, my family, my home. The $20 million was just a number, a fleeting thing. What we had now, love, trust, a shared story, was priceless.